Good evening, friends. Welcome to Discover Boston College, our virtual open house, which has been running for about 2 weeks. We'll run for 2 more weeks. And it's a lot of evening, weekend programming, highlighting different elements of life at Boston College. Tonight, we're utilizing the student admissions program, these handsome people that are on the screen right now that'll be doing most of the talking. I know I'm on the screen, but I'm not including myself with a handsome adjective. But I'm your host. My name is Chris O'Brien. I'm Associate Director of Admissions, advisor to the Student Admissions Program. What we're going to talk about tonight, and the reason why you tuned in tonight, is we're going to talk specifically about Boston College's Jesuit identity and mission. I feel like you're tuning in probably for one of two reasons. One is that you're very familiar with the Jesuit brand of education, a global brand, really, because right now, as we speak, around the country and the world, there are 1 million students at Jesuit elementary schools, high schools, colleges, and schools of theology. So this is a brand that is not just worldwide, but well known for its excellence when it comes to education, when it comes to dialogue, when it comes to activism. So you might be wherever you are in the country or in the world, and this is a brand that you definitely want to be a part of when you go to college. Maybe some of you attended Jesuit high school. I went to a Jesuit high school, and that's where I first learned about the Ignatian spirit, named after St. Ignatius. And I wanted to continue that in college, and maybe some of you have understood it from your parents who also attended a Jesuit college or university. So maybe this is something that you've heard about from family, from friends, from your own experience, or from your search. You're looking for certain communities and certain attributes, and it's led you to a list that might have several Jesuit or Catholic schools in it. I also understand there may be a few of you that like Boston College for its location and its academic programs and its size and a lot of other reasons. And now you're learning about this Jesuit identity and you don't know much about it and you want to know more about it and you want to see how it might be unique and distinctive from other schools in Boston because this is where you want to go to school, or other schools our size because you seem like this middle size might be what would be best for your college experience. So if that's the case, you tuned in on the right night, because we're really going to focus our time at the distinction of being at a Jesuit Catholic school, how it affects the academic offerings, how it affects the extracurriculars, how students navigate socially with it. We're going to learn about how much our students knew about it before their arrival, how much it's surprised or evolved during their time, and how personally it may have extended or changed the way that they think about themselves spiritually, and maybe how they think about themselves professionally upon graduation. I know it's a lot, but it's the kind of dialogue and it's the kind of conversations that we have a lot at our place. We hope that in the midst of 4 years at Boston College, students find conversation partners. Jesuits love these conversations. Even if the subjects make us a little bit uncomfortable, it's really with the thinking that when we're made to be uncomfortable, it's when we learn the most. And when we can have a diverse group of conversation partners, people of different backgrounds and faiths and political ideologies, etc., then we can really broaden our horizons and use our education not just to enrich ourselves, but certainly to help the widest amount of people possible with our education. That's certainly part of the Jesuit philosophy. Enough about me. It's time to do some introductions. So I'm going to have the group introduce themselves. We'll go in order of, let's do in order of first name alphabetically. And we'll do an introduction like this. We'll say who we are, where we're from, what year we are, and what we study. And then maybe what you knew of the Jesuit mission upon arrival. Again, running the spectrum from you just found out about it a couple of weeks ago to this is something that I really wanted in my search. So finish your introduction with that. And then after all of you have done an introduction, we'll go through a few of the questions and we'll take a few questions from our audience as well. I see we're already building up some questions. You're a curious bunch, which is fantastic. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. So it's been a while since I've studied the alphabet, but my rudimentary knowledge of the alphabet says that someone who has the first name with a G in the front of it would go first. So that means it's you, Grace. Why don't you get us started?
Hi, everybody. My name is Grace Carlson. I am a junior studying Finance and Information Systems in the Carroll School of Management, and I'm also pursuing a theology minor from the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. I am originally from Lafayette, California, so maybe 30 minutes, an hour outside San Francisco, depending on traffic. And then my experience with the Jesuit identity before coming to Boston College was very limited. I went to a Catholic high school, but not Jesuit. And so kind of my experience with it was I'd heard a lot about this Jesuit identity, and I knew that they had a lot of colleges, so they must have been good at education, but really knew nothing coming into Boston College. So through my theology courses and conversations with people on campus, felt like I really learned a lot more and have come to love it. So I'm excited to share that with you guys.
All right, Grace, you've already stumbled upon something that I think is really important for our viewers, and I think good to understand about Boston College. Now, we're a Catholic school, and we're supposed to espouse all these Catholic values, but you're in the business school. And a lot of people, when they put together what would be the values of a business school, it would mean profit at all costs. Collateral damage exists if needed in order to make the most. How does Boston College rectify, in your opinion, being a Catholic school and being a very good undergraduate business program?
That's a great question, Chris. I have to say I do get that comment a lot when I tell people I'm studying finance and theology. It seems like a bit of an oxymoron to some people, but I think right off the bat, all freshmen in the Carroll School of Management take a course called Portico, which is a little bit of an introduction to the business world, kind of understanding business ethics. And I was a little bit intimidated going in as a freshman, but we immediately started learning about ethical decision-making frameworks, how to be an ethical business leader, how to make decisions that aren't just looking out for yourself. And they really emphasize that these decisions and being kind of ethical and looking out for other people in business starts when you're a student. It's not something that you kind of work your way to the top and then you can start doing good for other people. You have to start doing it now. And then when you build up those skills, you carry that with you as you climb kind of the corporate ladder, if you will. So it's a great question. I think BC really does kind of address that stereotype, I guess, of the business school.
Great. Glad to hear it. I mean, I knew that. Our visitors need to know that. I think you did a great job, Grace. Thank you. Laura Kate, you're next. Let's hear your introduction.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Kate. I'm a senior here at Boston College in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I'm originally from Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and I'm double majoring in elementary education and applied psychology and human development. I attended a public high school. I went to Chelmsford High School, so I really did not have any knowledge of Jesuits before I came to BC. I really hadn't even heard of them, and it was not a deciding factor in when I came to BC, but since coming to BC, it has been a very defining part of my college experience, so that's been really awesome to see that happen.
Fantastic. Thanks, Laura Kate. Now, two people with the same first three letters is always tough for me. I always struggled with this, but I think Martin would be next. Martin, why don't you go ahead?
It's very good. Hello, everyone. My name is Martin. I am a junior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, where I double major in mathematics and music, and I'm originally from East Longmeadow, Massachusetts, which is in the western part of the state. Coming into Boston College, I also went to a public high school. So I was aware of the Jesuit Catholic identity. It was actually a big positive for me because I myself am Catholic. I go to church every Sunday, and that was a big part of my identity in high school, even though I went to a public school. And I knew when I went away to college, I wanted to be on a campus that offered those resources regularly, and I wouldn't have to be seeking them out, where at some schools that don't have that religious affiliation, you'd have to be going off campus to go to mass or something like that. So I was really definitely excited about that. And I haven't been let down. I came to school, I got involved in my faith more than I ever had. And just kind of keep going from there.
Great. And Martin, you just said, what you just said about your evolution, would a senior in high school, Martin, listen to what you just said and say, that's not me, how did that happen? I mean, is that kind of a big surprise as you look back to what you were looking to get out of college, that the paragraph of information that you just told me about how you've reflected on this Jesuit-ness of Boston College? I mean, is that shocking to you?
Yeah, I think, senior year Marty Ryan in high school, would have probably been a little surprised. Wouldn't have been like, 3 years, this isn't where I'm going to be. But I definitely think if you painted the picture and I said, this is how it happened, and you went to X program and you hung out with these people, I definitely think senior year me could see how it would happen, even if I'd be a little shocked at the time. But I wouldn't say it was out of the realm of possibilities.
Good stuff. Thank you, Martin. Mary, last but certainly not least, let's hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Mary Kenny. I'm a junior at BC studying applied psychology in our Lynch School of Education and Human Development with minors in global public health and management for social impact. I'm originally from St. Paul, Minnesota. I went to an all-girls school there, and it was a private school, Catholic school. My dad's best friend is actually a Jesuit priest, and so I'd heard the term Jesuit everywhere, but hadn't necessarily gotten to the root of what that identity meant. And certainly I was looking for a Catholic institution for higher education. I think my parents also really wanted that as well. And what I was surprised in coming to Boston College is how much my faith became my own. Rather than something that was prescribed into every single day, it was something that I chose to prescribe into every single day and really make active in my college experience rather than something that I just knew as normal in my high school experience. And so that's kind of how my transition has been through school so far.
So you bring up a good point, and Grace, you can chime in on this too, is, you know, and it happened to me going to a Catholic high school and looking ahead to a Catholic college or university. Like, do you get a little jaded and say, well, you know, there'll be people that didn't come from this. I did. So I kind of know that part of it, and I'm not going to invest that much in it because I've already taken theology classes. I know what they're going to talk about, and they're going to make me take a theology class, and I'm not really looking forward to it because I've already done that. But the way that you talked about your spirituality is that you took a little bit more ownership of it moving to college. I mean, would you say that's the big difference from how you looked at theology through the lens as a high school student to a college student?
Certainly. I think I came in with the mindset that I kind of knew at least somewhat what I was doing in that realm. But certainly, I guess maybe even if it's just through the Jesuit lens, there's so much more to faith that I could explore at college in ways that I didn't necessarily see as possible. I think I always saw it as you go to church or you learn about it in class, but there's so much more to that. And I think my faith, like I said, became active through some of those classes that I had the opportunity to take through our core curriculum. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about those later, but those made faith such a topic of conversation with my classmates in my dorm, deep chats late at night in a lounge when you should totally be asleep. It just became more routine into my daily life in ways that I wanted to and maybe didn't expect.
Well, you've made a nice segue into talking about how it affects the curriculum. And the most direct way that our Jesuit nature affects the curriculum is through the core curriculum. Now, number one is the core curriculum is designed to make you multidimensional, to give you the kind of education that has the widest possible base, that can affect the greatest amount of change and give you, again, the most and widest group of conversation partners possible. So that's number one. But second is that you have to extend out of your comfort zone in many cases. And while the core curriculum can be satisfied with some AP courses done in high school, there ain't no AP philosophy and there ain't no AP theology. So we rigged the system so you will have to take philosophy and theology courses with us. Now, for someone like Laura Kate, who's coming from a public high school where these things probably aren't offered, did you see that as intimidating, Laura Kate?
I wouldn't say I saw it as intimidating. I was definitely curious to see what it was going to be like. And I didn't take my theology and philosophy course till I was a sophomore. So I'd already kind of seen what my freshman peers had taken freshman year. And I really thought it was interesting because it was theology from like a scholarly standpoint, because obviously there are people from different faith backgrounds in the class. And it was very much, you know, reading the Bible I took an intro to Christianity as my theology core. You don't have to take a complete Christianity course. You can take a comparative religion course instead, but the course I took was all about Christianity. And it was just really interesting to read the Bible from like an academic standpoint, to really analyze it and to see the different interpretations that different people throughout the world look at it by. And as you said, I'm from a public school, so I had never even like talked about the Bible in school at all, because it's just not something I did at my high school. And so to come to college, I wouldn't say it was intimidating, but it was something I was definitely like genuinely curious about, and like curious to see how BC was going to make that happen. And I really appreciated the way they did it. That was very academic and scholarly, and especially in like, you know, there's other ways to interpret it outside of class, but in class they kept it very academic. And I thought I learned a lot about Christianity and how I see my faith and how I see other people's faith as well.
That's a great answer. And I probably chose the wrong words. You're from Eastern Massachusetts. You're not intimidated by anything. None of us are. But Grace, you're a theology minor. So there's something about the academic offerings in theology department that really pulled you in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting hearing what Laura Kate was saying. I kind of had a flipped experience to her. In my high school, I went to a Catholic high school, and our kind of exposure to religion in our courses was very, I would say, traditional and very studying the Bible word for word, memorizing certain things, which it does have value and is very interesting. But coming into college, I was so happy and excited to be able to take more conversation-based classes. I took a course called Perspectives my freshman year that fulfilled my philosophy and theology core. It's a year-long course, and it really combined kind of those two areas of studies. And the professor I had, it was very just conversation-based and talking and kind of expressing our own opinions, thinking like, what's the best way to live, which is just this big question that has so much to do with spirituality, but I never really thought about, and I just love it. And in my time taking theology courses, what I really love is the more I get into it, the more I can kind of pick topics that interest me. So my other theology major minor friends, if they're interested in kind of that more like looking at the Bible more just like kind of studying that more intensively, they can take courses for that. Or if, like me, they want to study just a certain saint or a certain topic within theology. Like I'm in theology of food right now. It's absolutely amazing. And I just love the different options that they have.
You took Perspectives. Did any others of you take Perspectives? Because it's a great sort of hallmark course of Boston College. Give people Grace, just a little like 30-second clip of like what kind of things, what kind of authors you covered, what kind of books you might have covered, just so people get a sense of sort of how broadly you went after that. How should we live a good life type of question that was posed to you during the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We covered everything like Aristotle, Plato, the Bible, readings from even just kind of modern authors, Martin Luther King Jr., the Pope, just everything under the sun. We were reading it, and just kind of even poems and different other forms of writing, not just straight literature. It was so interesting. And then another really cool part about the course is that it's primarily just freshmen taking it. I believe they offer one sophomore section, but it's almost all freshmen. And so then once a week, they meet on Wednesday nights in a big auditorium, and they have one speaker talk to all of the different sections. So even though you're in a different section with your professor and you might be learning a little bit different material, you all come together once a week and kind of listen to one talk and then unpack it with your own class and interpret it in your own way, which is just, it was awesome. I loved it.
So we talked to a couple of people who fulfilled their theology requirements. Martin and Mary, have you filled your theology requirements, and how did you fulfill them?
So I'll get us started, Mary. You can chime in after. But I got mine fulfilled freshman year, and I took Exploring Catholicism 1 and 2. So I took 1 in the fall and 2 in the spring. And I'm really happy I took that class because, as I mentioned, I'm Catholic, and it allowed me to kind of explore my faith a little more and really understand what goes into it. And, you know, it was really cool taking it and then also attending Mass at the same time, being like, oh, that's what that means. That's why this prayer is important. But I also kind of wish, and if there's time senior year, I maybe took some of the different theology classes offered. Like there's a Buddhism class that would be totally different. You know, I'm Catholic and I know enough about Catholicism that that class was interesting. It was really cool, but it'd be nice to know something about Islam or, you know, something totally different. So I haven't taken anything like that, but if there's space, I might senior year.
Hey, Martin, before I move on to Mary, someone asked about like the level of criticism. You know, you would think that if you're taking a Catholic course at a Catholic school, you better not disagree with what the answer is. I mean, did you feel that it was a fair level of discourse or even disagreement in the room, or you know, criticism of the way answers were developed? I mean, did you at least feel like there wasn't just one way and everything else was wrong, that there were things up for debate and discussion and really constructive discussion?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I think the big reason for that is because it's an academic course, you're going to get varied levels of experience in it. So you're going to get students like myself who attend Mass regularly, and then you're going to get students who are kind of like maybe what I would be going the other way. Maybe they're a Jewish student taking their first Catholicism class. So you got different levels of background and different perspectives, and the teacher would kind of introduce things, the professor, not the teacher, this isn't high school anymore, but the professor would introduce things kind of academically and say like, this is this is this. What do you think about this? And then we kind of break up talk. You'd write a little paper about it. You analyze it. And there was never really a set right answer. You know, the things that were facts were facts. It'd be like, this is why priests do this. This is why we have this. And then if it was something like a reading open for interpretation, there was always discussion. nothing was ever forced down our throats.
Thanks, Martin. And Mary, tell us a little bit about how you will or have satisfied the theology requirement for the core curriculum.
I'd love to. Thanks, Chris. I took a class called Pulse, which is, the formal title is Person and Social Responsibility. And this course is on the similar vein of perspectives. It's actually typically taken your sophomore year. It's a year-long course which fulfills your philosophy and theology requirements and combines it with a component of service. And so what we had is each week we'd have class time to talk about those same authors, a lot of Aristotle, a lot of questions such as what is good and what brings you joy? What are you good at? What does the world need from you? But then we get to live that out and kind of learn more about another community in a service placement somewhere in the city of Boston. And so I was lucky enough to go work with the kindergarten class at James Otis Elementary School in East Boston. There were 50 kindergartners. They all spoke Spanish. My heart is like still there all the time. And sadly, we got sent home because of coronavirus last spring, but I still got to keep in touch with them. But it was so wonderful to go interact with another community, live out those teachings of friendship and the heart of where a lot of these traditions have come from, and then come to your class and talk with your classmates. I had football players talking about how they were changed by their time in the nursing home and what that brought to them. And then I had students who had never interacted in any faith sort of background talking about how, wow, I see this come to life from the Bible. Like I saw this virtue and things like that. And so we just had such rich conversations. Our professor actually would never talk during our discussion groups. He would sit at the front and he would just let us start. And they would always be so rich, we'd want to keep going at the end. Even when class was over, no one checked the clock at all. And so certainly, definitely my favorite course I've ever taken at BC.
And you saw up close the real connection that Jesuits, the philosophy of education, have between service and what you're learning. It's one thing to understand the concepts, but it's more important to have contact with people and fuse those concepts together, or, if you will, reflect on how they combined with each other. It's all about reflection, right? So you saw it up close. Pulse is the ultimate way that the Jesuits connect service, learning. What you're doing with us is a community of servants and a community of learners. That's what we're supposed to do for you guys. And you saw it, Pulse is the perfect example. But all of you have understood that there's definitely a culture of service at Boston College. It's not required. It is if you choose to take the course Pulse, but it's not something that's required. I don't think there's any peer pressure. I don't know if somebody says, listen, you've got to be a big brother to some 4-year-old kid. Like, I don't think it's that kind of pressure, but there's certainly a culture. And maybe a couple of you can talk about how some of the big organizations at Boston College, some of the major events at Boston College have to do with service at our institution. Can you guys comment on that? Maybe a couple of you.
Yeah, Chris, I'd be happy to talk about APA. APA is one of the probably largest service organizations at Boston College. I think the official title is Appalachian Volunteers Group or something along those lines. But what APA does is throughout the year, you will go to different seminars and kind of activities that they host to just kind of meet everyone in the organization and learn a little bit about what service means, kind of like these philosophical conversations that Mary and I were talking about from our courses, talking about what can we bring to these communities, what can these communities give to us, what's the difference between helping and serving, because there's a big difference there. And then this kind of culminates in a trip during your spring break where you'll go to a small community or kind of, I think we've expanded into larger urban cities. It used to just be in the Appalachia region, but now it's expanded. I think I had a Puerto Rico trip last year. So they're growing larger and larger every year, but you go into these communities for a week and you'll either work on a different project or maybe work at a Habitat for Humanity site. And there's really this large emphasis on learning the stories of the people that are there and just talking to as many people, kind of this conversation-based spirituality that we were talking about. But APA is not inherently a religious organization. It is on Boston College, so we do pray at meetings, things like that, but it's open to all students. And I know so many students from different religious backgrounds participate, and even if you're not from a specific faith, it is kind of a spiritual experience just to see people who live different lives and you might not have met otherwise.
Great answer. How about someone else about this overarching culture at Boston College that has to do with service?
Sure, I can talk too. So just like Grace, I did participate in APA my freshman and sophomore year as well, and it's an awesome program. And another program I participated in a few years here at BC is called For Boston. So it's a number 4 and then the word Boston because it's 4 hours a week of service. So my placement was at the Hennigan School in Boston Public Schools, and I was a tutor to children of immigrants from Somalia, which is really awesome because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm an education major, so it's a great way to get some more experience in my field, as well as form a community with my fellow BC peers and with the students I worked with at the Hennigan School. And so I go once a week for about 3 hours. We had about an hour of transportation built into the 4 hours. And it was really awesome because I got to form these really great relationships with the kids. And it's the same kids every year, so I got to come back and see them again the next year. And then it was also a really great community within BC. So we have a group of about 12 BC kids, and we go different days to the placement, but then we'd have 1 hour a week where we'd come together on BC's campus and have a reflection. And this reflection was really integral, and reflection is a really big part of Jesuit values, and the service components at BC really do integrate reflection really well. So at these reflections, we'd reflect on our service. Like one reflection, we learned all about Somalian culture and how this relates to our work with the kids, and then other reflections would be about our own spirituality and how this relates to service, and just building community within my peers at BC, from freshmen to sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It was a really great place to meet new people. And so I think that BC does an awesome job of integrating the service component with this reflection component, which just makes the service more meaningful once you reflect on it and think about it and how what you're bringing to the service and what you're getting out of it as well.
So Laura Kate, if I can follow up,
Yeah.
we always talk about, school's big, no Greek life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make friends? And I'm guessing you have friends. You've alluded to having friends. So do clubs like this, service clubs, is that like your Greek life? Because you find people that are wired like you, that maybe come from a record of high school where they've done service. Is that your sorority? Because you joined For Boston, there's your people.
Yes, I definitely think that clubs take the place of sororities and fraternities here at BC, whether that be through a service club or through a club sport or something else. Like, people really bond with the groups they're with. Like, as a freshman, my senior leader of my For Boston reflection group was such an integral part of my freshman year. She was a mentor to me. She lived in obviously senior housing. So as a freshman, I was invited to these dinners at her house. I thought it was so cool. And she gave me so much advice about my time here at BC, and just being able to meet people from all 4 years at BC, which can be hard to do as a freshman as well, was really important. And then, as I said, we had to get to the Hennigan School, so it was like an hour on the T each way, which is our subway system here in Boston. So just having this small group of people from BC that I just got to talk with for the entire time that I was going to and from the school was also a really great way to build community as well.
Great answer. Great, both answers, Laura Kate. Thank you. Someone in the Q&A asked questions about campus ministry. You would imagine at a school with a mission like ours would have a pretty robust offering in campus ministry. Are any of you guys familiar with, worked with programs under the campus ministry umbrella? And if you have, can you also comment on sort of the wide range of programs that are offered under that umbrella?
Absolutely. I'd love to take this one. I remember the first week, I can go all the way back, the first week at Boston College, we had one RA meeting Sunday night before classes started, and she was telling us that there was going to be an 8 p.m. mass on our freshman campus at Trinity Chapel. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to know what to say and when to stand and when to sit and know what I'm doing for this 1 hour. So I think I'm going to go. So I went to mass, and I found the Liturgy Arts Group, which is the organization that's in charge of all the music ministry for all of the masses, at least the 8 p.m. masses, which are most popular on Sunday nights because students like to sleep in. So anyway, I remember I was sitting there, and all of these campus ministry ambassadors were coming up to us, mingling after mass, asking what dorm we lived in, how our transition to classes was feeling, and they asked if I sang, and I was like, I love to sing, sure. And so I joined their group, found some of my best friends through that, but that really opened my eyes to a lot of campus ministry affiliated things. We certainly have all those people who help orchestrate the masses, lectors, gift bearers, things like that, and obviously singers, what I'm a part of. But then also there's a whole world of campus ministry. Like we have APPAs actually falling under that campus ministry wing. We have certainly tons and tons of retreats, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit later. But also campus ministry offices do a lot of things for spiritual guidance. They do a lot of one-on-ones, almost act as your guidance counselors, and can really be helpful resources for you on campus. My best mentor on campus is actually the head of the liturgy arts group, and he is able to mentor me all the time. He's a wonderful resource that I can just turn to as an adult on campus to really just, I don't know, hear the woes, point me in the right direction if I'm ever having an issue or something like that. And so campus ministry has certainly become another little safe haven and a little piece of home within the Boston College web.
I like that. I like that a lot. Anybody else familiar with sort of the range of programming under the campus ministry umbrella?
I just want to mention that the For Boston program I was talking about and the Appalachia Volunteer Service program that Grace was talking about are both under the umbrella of campus ministry. So those are two examples of service programs and opportunities that campus ministry provides for students.
Right, and campus ministry also provides programs, support, conversations for students that are Christian. There are programs for Muslim students. There's a Hillel for Jewish students. There are ministers of many different faiths in campus ministry. I'm sure among your friends, I'm sure you've seen in your time at Boston College, people praying in many different forums, in many different places. And can any of you comment on some of the other faiths that you've seen practices, or some of the other resources for students that may be spiritual, but their tradition isn't from the Jesuit Catholic tradition?
Sure, I'll get us started. And this is actually a more probably basic example, because the friend I have in mind was actually a Christian student. So another form of Christianity, just not Catholicism. And while this isn't something as different as, say, Judaism or Islam or Buddhism, or we have a lot of stuff on campus, this was still something that for the student, they didn't necessarily feel comfortable going to a Catholic Mass, even though a lot of the same words are said, a lot of the concepts are the same. They said, I really want to feel like I'm part of a Baptist community, and that's what I want. And so they actually went to campus ministry. And so I was going to chime in if you guys hadn't. And campus ministry, instead of saying, we have multi-faith chapels on campus that'll do what you want, which we do, or you can go to a Catholic Mass and you can do XYZ, which we also do. He kind of told them his situation, and they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to find a Baptist parish in Newton, in the area, and we're going to get you in contact with them, and you can go every Sunday. And that's what he does, and he loves it. And even though he couldn't necessarily find something he really loved on campus, we offer those opportunities, but he was looking to be part of like a real authentic community of Baptists, just get the full age range, not just college students, worshiping in a multi-faith chapel or something. And campus ministry made it work for him. They said, we're going to find this parish for you, and we're going to, get you the resources to get there and make sure you have a good time and enjoy your faith experience as much as you can while you're here. So that's the example I always mention.
That's a great one. That's a great one. In the title that I came up with, I said retreats and reflections. So I brought up the subject of retreats, and this may or may not be part of a lot of our viewers' high school or spiritual experience, but this is a big part of the Jesuit world. This is a big part of Ignatian understanding of education, is that sometimes you need to back away. And what you're learning in the classroom, the conversations you're having, sometimes you need to disengage with the people around you, retreat to a different setting, maybe have quieter or different conversations with maybe a new group of people in order to get further along. Can a couple of you talk about the retreat culture at Boston College, if this was something that was really new to you? And because there are a lot of flavors of retreats at Boston College, maybe one or another of you can talk a little bit about how you found these programs helpful, successful for you during your time at BC.
I can take this one. I certainly have fallen in love with the concept of retreats. I remember freshman year kind of hearing the colloquial language about how much everyone was talking about how they were enlightened after coming on these retreats, and I found them very mysterious. But I also signed up for one and wanted to see what the experience is like. And as Chris was talking about, it really does allow you to get off campus for the most part. Obviously, bearing COVID in mind, it's a little different this year, but going off campus and really being able to separate yourselves from your BC community to pause and ponder about what your experience has been so far, whether that is in the vein of faith or whether that is in your own trajectory coming to college. Some of the faith retreats that I found were from the Liturgy Arts group at the beginning of the year. We have a retreat on Cape Cod, and I remember thinking, you know, Minnesota's in the middle of the Midwest. We don't see the ocean. It's going to be with my friends. Like, sure, I'm going to sign up for this. It's going to be great. And certainly it gives you a lot of time to be in a small group and talk with your peers about where they're at, get their advice. I remember such a pivotal moment. It was the second month of my freshman year on this lag retreat. And I had a senior look to me and he said, "Mary, I'm on your team." And that was such a powerful moment to know that this was my team. Like, I had found some people on the Boston College campus who were my team. And I never will forget that. Now I say it all the time. It meant so much to me then. But certainly there's a lot of other retreats that you can find as well. And one that I've also been able to find is called Kairos. And that's a retreat in the vein of spirituality. You actually get called for, you can put your name into this. It's kind of a form of a drawing to find your way into the Kairos experience. And they like to keep it very personal because it is your own trajectory. So it's not secretive in a sense, but you don't really talk about what's happened on Kairos so that everybody else can enjoy their experience for themselves once they're there. It's a lot of time to think about yourself. It's not that you're silent. You can talk with people and explore and unpack, but also, you know, do some lighthearted thinking and learn more about yourself.
Anybody else want to chime in on the subject of retreats and the retreat culture at Boston College?
Yeah, I can quickly mention just a couple other retreat options that we have. I think, Chris, you mentioned earlier that a lot of people who might be on this call right now might be coming from a kind of non-spiritual background and interested about what this would be like. I think a good example of how BC makes room for those students and makes them feel welcome is a 48 hours retreat. It's put on by our first year experience office, which their whole job is just to make freshmen feel welcome and to make programs for them. So what 48 hours is, like the name suggests, it's a weekend away. I think they do it at 2 different locations. The one I went to was on the Cape, so I was very lucky. And the whole emphasis on 48 hours is just building community and kind of easing you into this idea of reflection and easing you into this idea of how to open up to a small group of people you just met. So kids who may not come from a spiritual background, who may not have ever been on a retreat, are suddenly able to kind of see these ideas in action and see how cool it can be when you get close to a new group of people, or when you can just hang out late at night on the beach and talk to someone new that you just met like a day prior, which I think I went on my freshman year and I loved it. Even having been on retreats before, I felt like I was kind of seeing a new way of how to just kind of get close to new people, especially as a freshman. I think that's just so important.
Someone talked about a buzz phrase that we use a lot in terms of Jesuit education that hasn't come up yet. Many times we talk about men and women for others. We talk about the core curriculum, but someone talked about cura personalis. Someone went Latin on me and they talked about cura personalis. That's something that you've all heard, not just through admissions work, but through different parts of your life. Can someone talk about sort of how BC is designed to initiate and support cura personalis for our students?
Sure, I'll hop in on that one. And a lot of what I will say we've already touched on, but cura personalis, care of the whole person is what we're looking for at a Jesuit Catholic school, and specifically at Boston College. And I think we kind of hit that. We have this core curriculum, we have these retreats, we have a variety of religious offerings, but I would just say that in general on campus, there's kind of a feel of a diversity of interest in everything. You're going to meet different people, and then that's going to be true at any campus. You're going to a top tier private institution, you're going to meet a lot of different people. And I think Boston College really allows that to grow. They say, okay, you're going to be on campus now with students from Senegal. You've never been, anywhere near Africa before, but here you are. And then we're also going to allow you to be in an African drumming ensemble and understand their culture and get to, meet a few kids from here. And then on the other hand, you're going to get, club sports, where maybe you played sports all time in high school, and you're going to get to continue that. So it's kind of varying degrees of maintaining familiarity, things you're used to, and also going out of your comfort zone and finding new things and branching out. And I think Boston College does a really good job of providing all of those resources for students.
Um, do you guys, a question that came up, which I thought, so I'm getting some great questions here. Like, can we be personal for a second? And do you feel like your faith is stronger because of Boston College? Like, something's happened at BC, you were aware of it, participated in it, and now your faith is different and stronger. Does anybody want to chime in on that one?
Sure, I can go. So I am not from a Catholic background. I was raised Protestant, but I haven't really ever considered myself to be really religious. But I do feel like after coming to BC, I'm a lot more spiritual, if that makes sense. So I feel like I have learned how to reflect. I've learned how to question about what I think about the world and how I interact with the world and how the world interacts with me. And I've started to really, see and like consider how I see God or, another kind of spirit in my life. And so I think Mary mentioned Kairos, and it's a retreat, and it is a very spiritual retreat. And one thing I really enjoyed about Kairos is that they did talk about God and Catholicism a decent amount, but they would also give you other buzzwords that you could replace. So instead of saying like, how do you see God in your life? They would say you can use the word love instead of God. So how do you see love in your life? And so just to see these different ways that spirituality can be interpreted has really made me question how I view the world as well. And so I don't think it's really made me more religious necessarily, but it's made me question my spirituality and think about it so much more than I ever did when I was in high school.
So since several questions in the Q&A talk about people that are not Catholic feeling comfortable, I mean, your experience has been one where, while you may have come in with a little bit of apprehension, you were open-minded, you participated, you had friends that were Catholic, you had friends that may not have been, you had friends that were Catholic at one time and don't practice, and you sort of still were able to blaze your own path, and now you feel better about sort of where you stand spiritually and ethically, et cetera. I mean, is that a fair assessment? I mean, do you want to go into that a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. So one thing, like I'd never been to Mass before I came to BC, and I've been several times since I've been here. And even just like that experience, just they welcome me in even as a non-Catholic. And I think that's really powerful that, BC is very welcoming of anybody from any spiritual background into the Catholic Church or into Mass, or to not go to Mass, to not go to the Catholic Church. Like whatever you feel is right is fine. And so there's been some times where I, again, am not Catholic, but I felt the call to go to Mass. And so I would just go to Mass on like a Monday night. And it was a really great experience and a really welcoming opportunity that BC gives me. But I know a lot of friends that are Catholic and have been really involved in going to Mass every week. Somebody mentioned like the Sunday night Mass, that's really popular here at BC. But from my own background, I'm not a huge fan of going to services on a normal basis. And I've still managed to use the spirituality and the Jesuit ideals of BC to formulate my own version of my spiritual experience and my time here at BC.
How do you think this has affected you going forward? Meaning that maybe you came in thinking that you were going to be a lawyer because you were going to be a divorce lawyer to the stars and make tons of money, and now you're still thinking about being a lawyer, but maybe you're thinking about being a lawyer in a different way, or you're thinking about using your talents in a different way. Has any of this had an effect on what your future holds? And maybe, again, you had some plan coming in, but the Jesuits have turned it on its side, or at least gave you more to think about in terms of what direction you might want to go professionally when your time at Boston College is up?
Is this for me or can anybody
It could
answer
be
it?
anybody.
Okay. Okay, I can talk about it. So I came into BC wanting to be a teacher. I've literally always wanted to be a teacher since I was in preschool. I used to like lay all my baby dolls down and pretend they were my students. So I've always wanted to be a teacher. And I came into BC,
Laura,
want to be a teacher. Yes.
can we just stop and recognize
Yes.
how cute that was? Just a second. All right,
I have a picture of it. It is pretty cute.
you may continue.
And so I came in and I didn't really have like a reason why I wanted to be a teacher. I just liked working with kids and I always felt really called to be a teacher. But since coming to BC, I have really revolutionized the way that I view teaching and why I want to be a teacher. And, definitely this has been affected by BC's Jesuit values and its emphasis on reflection and social justice and service. because now instead of wanting to be a teacher because I like kids and I like being in the classroom, I want to be a teacher because I feel like education is very fundamental to social justice and to moving society forward and to making sure our children are aware of the problems that plague our country and our world. And because I'm forced, like very forced to reflect every day at BC, like every time I'm in a classroom, I have to write a 2-page reflection about how it went and what did I see in the classroom and how did this affect me. I've really had the time and the energy to step back and think, this is why I want to be a teacher, and it's because I think it's important for this reason, and not just because I like it, but because I really think it's important to drive our society forward, and I really want to be a woman for others. And I feel like for me, that calling is through being a teacher, and BC has really given me, you know, the words and the time to be able to find this within myself.
That was great.
Thank you.
Would one of you guys be courageous enough to try to follow that up?
I can try. In a similar vein of as Laura Kate, I also always dreamed of being a teacher. And I came into Boston College, set on it in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. And also we have to double major if you're in elementary education. And so I picked up applied psychology, quickly fell in love with applied psychology and the way that we can interact and learn about the human development side, brains, and just like how we interact as people, our human connections. We also took a freshman seminar called ERA, which is Experience, Reflection, and Action. And in ERA, we had tons of time to talk about different topics, kind of like what Laura Kate was talking about, in the ways that we need to improve the school system, or we need to improve the lives of children in society today. Tons about inequities, tons about microaggressions, just a wonderful class that highlighted a lot of those injustices in society. And so I remember talking with my academic advisor, and she just saw how lit up I was about the fact that I would love to help level some of those inequities on a global scale, and how much I really enjoyed talking about applied psychology in the vein that one day I could work for a nonprofit and help more people have access to education, but maybe not be the teacher myself. And so I ended up dropping applied psychology and picking up management for social impact. Like we talked about a little bit before, I think I was apprehensive about studying business, but my academic advisor advised me to do that because she said it's all about making that human-centered connection. It's being those men and women for and with others, having genuine connection, advancing people forward into community, and for the betterment of themselves and the world around them. And I think I would have never thought about it in that vein without that time to reflect, and those Jesuit ideals that kind of came at me saying, like, you can do this. This is your passion and you can make it happen with the opportunities and the resources around you. Certainly wouldn't have necessarily found that without the guidance of both Boston College and the advisors within it.
Great answer. Well done, both of you. As I finish off here and tackle a couple last questions that are on the Q&A, a couple people have asked about the inclusivity of Boston College being a Jesuit Catholic school for our LGBTQ plus students. What has been your experience on campus and the relationship between, in your opinion, I mean, you're not the Pope, but in your opinion, sort of the relationship between a place like Boston College and the LGBTQ plus community?
Yeah, I'll get us started with that. So actually one of my best friends on campus who's not here this semester, so sad, he's an international student and he decided not to come, and he's going to be fully virtual from his location, but he's in the LGBTQ community, and he's absolutely a great student and just a great friend, great person to know. And, you know, I didn't know him really until my sophomore year. We kind of did random housing. We ended up in an 8-man together in Healthy Living, and he quickly became one of my favorite friends ever. He would have been my roommate again this year. And, you know, you look at me and I've said, yeah, I've been Catholic my whole life. I go to a Jesuit Catholic school. And, you know, that some people say, oh, there's a stigma or whatever, and you're not going to be inclusive or whatever. And one of my best friends is, you know, my friend who's my roommate, LGBTQ student. And he always feels safe on campus, always feels, you know, happy, welcome. He's in a number of groups. No one's ever kicked him out. No one's ever made fun of him. You know, he's got a ton of friends. He's one of the most popular people on campus. And this is just a singular example. But I think really the general vibe on campus is you're going to get people that care about people for who they are. People, not what they believe, not what they look like, not what they think like. Just who are you? Are you a good person? Do you treat me with respect? Do you treat others with respect? And if you do, I think you're going to fit in here. You're going to find that people look up to you, people respect you, even if they don't think like you. And I know that's true in our relationship, and that's true in a lot of his relationships and my relationships. You know, my other roommate's an atheist. He's not a Catholic. This is getting a little off script, but I just think as long as you focus on people for just the people side of people, you're going to find that Boston College is a really great place to grow and meet new friends.
Great answer, Martin. Does anybody else want to add to that from their experience?
I would also just add that within campus ministry, there's a program, I believe it's called the Axios Group. It's similar to other organizations where it's just small groups, conversation based, and that is a campus ministry LGBTQ plus group that's available for students to be involved in. I know people involved in it, they love it. It's a great community. So just wanted to say that is a resource that we have.
Now, are there any organizations on campus that specifically cater to Catholic students who want to, whether it's Bible study or church ministry? Have any of you been involved in St. Ignatius and some of the programs at that parish church? Are you familiar with any of those programs at BC?
I can talk a little bit about St. Ignatius. I actually taught Sunday school at St. Ignatius last year. That's a very popular program for BC students. It's virtual this year, so it's going to be a little bit different. But last year I taught a class full of 20 fourth grade boys and 2 fourth grade girls. So it was an interesting dynamic. And I absolutely love that. I know so many people involved in that program, and there is something just like, again, going off script like Martin said, but there's just something so special about seeing faith through children and seeing kind of this, the way that they view God. I think it's so unique. And to be able, kind of going back to the academic side, to be in these extremely academic religious courses and then on Sunday go and see and just talk to kids about parables and Noah's Ark and things like that, I think is so interesting. And that balance, I think, is something that is so special about the Boston College community and a lot of the programs that we offer for our religious students, and that you can have these intensely academic conversations and classes. You can also have these kind of lighthearted but still important and conversation-based.
Thank you for that. And then maybe the final question is, especially for the seniors, maybe your friends, I don't know if you guys have considered it, but maybe your friends, there's certainly a population of BC students that do a year of service after graduation. Jesuit Volunteer Corps, Teach for America, there's a number of different organizations, and I don't know if there are emails that go out, if there's a fair for these kind of opportunities. I mean, are any of your friends, have you been part of conversations among your friends, or any of you considering something like this before Grace, the world of the financial services industry comes to get you, or anything like that? Have you been made aware of these things, and do you know people that in your friend groups or others that are going to think about doing a year of service after graduation?
I'm not a senior, but I can take this one. My good friend, Matthew Davis, he was the president of the Liturgy Arts Group last year. He's actually leaving for Dublin next week to be one member of the House of Bridget in Dublin. It's a program affiliated with Notre Dame, actually, but it's a campus ministry job essentially, where he's going to do music ministry with the children there over at House of Bridget, and he's so excited. He's been talking about that nonstop since he heard back after his interviews last spring. But he's going to spend a year there, just fully immersed in their parish life and getting to know the community there. And he certainly has found some wonderful friends who are doing the same. It's been really cool to learn from him. And then also the vice president of the Liturgy Arts Group is in another program doing similar things, but actually locally, or at least domestically, in Louisiana. She's teaching in Teach for America and doing wonderful things through that. She has a whole analogy that she does with her kiddos about they stand up every day in their classroom and they try to grab their waterfall, which is God's love raining down on them. And so she comes and she Zooms with me all the time and talks about how much her time there so far, even in the first month, has meant to her. It's certainly something that I like hearing about. They're so excited and amplified by the experiences that they get to have post-grad. It's certainly something to look forward.
I tell you, we filled an hour with some pretty cool things that can happen to people in college. And I think it's great, the questions and the interest that we had. Just about everybody stayed with us for the whole time. And you guys, I mean, spoke from the heart, which of course all of us appreciate, not just the admissions person, but all the people just want to hear the truth about the journey that you guys have been on. You referred to a script. I don't remember emailing you a script. So this is all you. And if you took us to places that you thought were different, then, you know, that's what BC students do. I mean, we're a different place, and we want people to consider these things about our uniqueness and distinctiveness if they want to join us. So to my panel, you did a great job. To my viewers, you've seen their emails, and I don't force them to do that. Maybe I would like them to do that, but I don't force them to do it. They're certainly willing to answer any questions. They talked about so many great things, but if you want to ask them about where the best place to get a steak and cheese in Boston is or anything like that, they're very happy to answer the questions. We have great students and great people. So thanks all for the comments and the questions. Keep the conversation going. You can find my information on the BC website, Chris O'Brien, and you can certainly copy down the information from our friends on their little video boxes there. Great job, guys. And thanks for joining us. Good luck this year, whatever you do. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye now. Thanks, guys.